All right, everybody. Hello. Welcome to Targeting Winners, Season 2, Episode 6. We are taking a peek at the Big Ten today, and kind of special episode here. We've mentioned before there's 4 of us knuckleheads that kind of bet on college football and can spend an entire day in a sports book and not be bothered. Well, the 4th member of that squad is joining us today. Ray, welcome, man. How's it going?
Thank you. It's going well. Thanks for having me here.
Definitely, dude. Tim is busy playing in a hurricane somewhere in Miami, previous work engagements. So, we'll try and make him proud here with me on tech. That's already a disaster waiting to happen. But and then, as always, of course, we got Pete with us. Pete, how's it going today?
Not too bad. Hello, everyone. It's Big Ten Day, baby. Big Ten Day. I love it.
This is your show, baby. You know the Big Ten more than anybody. All right, so because we've got 32 teams in the conference this year, I think that we got to get to.
At least.
So no defections from the Big Ten this year. They did pick up 4 Pac-12 cast-offs. They got Oregon, USC, UCLA, and Washington. So again, that brings to 18 teams. They are scrapping divisions, so no more East and West. I'm sure the West is thrilled about that because now they can't send a partially decent team to the title game. But 9 conference games for 2024. So let's kind of get into it because, Pete, I don't know when you guys were breaking this down. This kind of looked like a pretty top-heavy conference here. You got a handful of teams you can make a strong case for. Maybe a couple you can maybe make a case for if you really want to. And then the last 12 teams here, most of them could be looking at either a long season or a rebuilding season. Did you have that thought as well?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think it's interesting because it's top heavy in the sense that there are 3 or 4 teams that likely one of them will win, right? We'll talk about that later. But it's also a deep conference. There's a number of teams that are decent football teams, right? So I just, unfortunately for some of them, either they've just come in here and I think they're going to have to challenge in a new conference, or they're just outmatched. They're outmanned. So I think some of that's in play. They just happen to be in the wrong place at the wrong time, I think. So I think there's some of that in play. But yeah, it's kind of a mixed bag. But really, I mean, I think it's a really, to your point, a top-heavy conference for sure.
Yeah, and it's very interesting. There's a lot of teams here that according to the odds, really don't have a shot. But there's some intriguing things to look at. And some of these programs maybe aren't that far away from being at the top of this conference. So that being said, let's start with the longest shots here. And again, these odds are from FanDuel. DraftKings, BetMGM has not yet posted odds for any of these. I believe Caesars has some, but we'll just go with FanDuel since they're probably more popular here. So at the bottom, we've got Indiana and Purdue, both at plus 30,000. And then we're going to chuck Minnesota in there at plus 20,000. Anything with these 3 teams at all that he maybe even gave you a little bit of hope for any of them?
I so want Minnesota to be a decent team. I like PJ Fleck. I like what he does with programs. I really want them to be good. No, not too good because I'm a Michigan fan, but I want them to be good. I want them to be serviceable, and they're just not right now. And I don't know what that. I don't think he's going to be there a heck of a lot longer if this continues because I don't know. But it's just I don't this year. No, I don't see anything from any of those 3 teams that would even warrant watching them, to be honest. So no.
Yeah, Minnesota, I believe they're bringing in the New Hampshire quarterback, so that's going to be a huge step up in class for him should he win the job. And I don't know if you took a look at that schedule, but I mean, Iowa, Michigan, USC, Penn State, all on the schedule. This team only scored 21 points a game last year, so yeah, I agree with you. Not a lot of optimism here. And as far as Purdue and Indiana, and the only thing I even remotely am looking forward to, we had talked about this on the Coaching Change show. We did like the James Madison coach, Cignetti, heading over to Indiana. He was able to get Curtis Rourke to transfer from Ohio. The schedule is decent, but again, much like with Purdue, Indiana's defense, very, very bad. Not a lot of starters returning for either of those programs. So I don't see any reason to even have a glimmer of hope here. Although I do think Indiana is headed in the right direction.
I agree with that.
All right. Ray, how you doing, man? You got anything for the bottom feeders of the conference?
No, it's top heavy. I think most of the teams are in trouble here.
Yeah. Ray's our resident long shot guy, so if he feels even the slightest bit of love towards one of these things, he's firing, guaranteed. All right, let's group these
No.
next three teams together because there's some intrigue here. We've got Michigan State and Illinois at plus 13,000 to win the conference, and Northwestern at plus 15,000. So like I said, some interesting stuff here with these three teams. Pete, what did you see here?
Well, I think two of them have a future. I mean, we talked about it a little bit, but I think Michigan State made the right hire. Right, this is a team that has been quite good in the past. Right, they have the potential to recruit. They have the potential to compete with other really good teams in the Big Ten and other places as well. So the potential's there. But since Mark D'Antonio, it's just not been there. Jonathan Smith is a great hire. I think they have a future. They're just not yet. Their roster is not there. They're not in a position this year to go do much of anything. But I think their future is bright. Northwestern, I think, is heading the right direction now. I think they are evolving and moving past some of the challenges and turbulence they had within that program. So I think they've set the boat in the right direction here. It's Northwestern. So this is one of these teams that every now and again pops up and is dangerous, right? And I think, they're probably on course to be that again, right? Every 5 or 6 years, suddenly they're good and they're dangerous. Otherwise, they're just kind of hanging around, right? That's the typical Northwestern story.
Yeah, I mean, shout out to David Braun, man. He got this team somehow to 8 wins when the 2 years before that they combined for like 4. He was given the head coaching job and well deserved. But now he's losing his quarterback, his offensive coordinator, his top wide receiver's gone. He's got some challenges, but like you said, I agree that this program's definitely headed in the right direction. And I agree with the Michigan State assessment you had as well. Aiden Childs, who was the backup to DJ at Oregon State, came over with Jonathan Smith. So that's one of the handful of quarterbacks I'm definitely going to keep an eye on. But again, brutal schedule: Ohio State, Oregon, Iowa, Michigan. Certainly we'll see how they do in those. And I wasn't a fan of Illinois last year, and I am not a fan of them this year. Their defense totally slipped from 2 years ago, going from averaging 13 points allowed to 29. Their quarterback, Altmaier, not a very good season. Their top receiver, Isaiah Williams, off to the NFL, most likely. Illinois, I would probably go higher than plus 13,000 because I think Northwestern and even Indiana could do better than Illinois here. But I don't know if you saw anything with Illinois that you like, but I saw nothing here.
No, but I think you made an interesting point, right? I think the new world, new normal in college football is a little bit of a two-edged sword, right? You could be a Northwestern or somebody like that and start to rise up, start to play better, get attention, have some players clearly get attention, and then they have to end up defecting to a larger program, right? So I think it's going to be really hard for some of these teams that I think in the past could have had pretty good programs with a good coach and recruiting, and I think the minute they get anything that's even close to a top level talent, they're just going to defect. So that's going to make it much more difficult. It's going to create more issues in these conferences, and the Big Ten being one of them, where you have the top couple and kind of everybody else, and that's a little concerning as we look forward, to be honest.
Yeah. All right, a couple of teams here that actually had some decent seasons last year, but do have some question marks going into 2024. UCLA currently sitting at plus 11,000 to win this conference here. Great defense, something UCLA and Chip Kelly really aren't known for, but their defense was outstanding, only 18.4 points allowed. Quarterback battle, Dante Moore has transferred. Is it Colin Schlee? Is it Ethan Garbers? Who knows? That great defense only has 4 starters returning. And again, a new head coach who has no head coaching experience, new offensive coordinator, new defensive coordinator. This team looks set up for a big step back. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think their defense is, it was good. They've lost a lot of people, so that's going to be a challenge to replace them. I don't know if they can do that with a few of them. From the offensive side, right, there's a QB battle going on. Eric Bieniemy ending up here is odd. It's just concerning to me because what 3 years ago he was the hot next NFL head coach guy kicking around, and all of a sudden he's the coordinator at UCLA. To me, that's a significant step backwards for him. That to me is kind of damning of his ability to do this. So I don't know. I don't see much happening here.
Yeah. All right. Ray had told us before we started recording, he's got a little gleam in his eye here when we talk about this next program. Rutgers. Pretty good ball club last year. Good defense, only 21 points a game allowed. Offensively, we may have some issues here. Ray, thoughts on Rutgers?
I like the defense. I like the defense. That keeps you in a lot of games. I'm saying nine wins.
What? Okay.
see
I don't know what the
that?
current win total is here, but somebody should look that up if Ray's calling.
That's
for
pretty
9 wins.
substantial. I think that. Let me see. What did I see for the over under the wins? I think it was.
The schedule's not terrible. I mean,
they're not even on this list, which says that they're under 6.5.
Oh gosh.
I mean, I think I didn't know if Ray's correct. I mean, they're going to play defense, and as we've talked about ad nauseum at this point, any team that plays defense has a chance, right? And so they do. So I think they're fun to watch. I think they can sneak up and beat somebody, and that's what I think the best is for them is they could beat somebody on any day, for the most part, and I think that's interesting. So I'll give them that. But to win this conference, no, that's not happening.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if they're going to win it, but at least they've got a decent running back, Kyle Magnani. Probably pronounced that wrong, Kyle, if you're listening, which I'm sure you are. My bad. Over 1,200 yards rushing. Quarterback, big question mark though. Gavin Wimsatt, not a very good year. The Greek guy from Minnesota, I'm not even going to try to pronounce his name. He transferred over to Rutgers. So again, we got a QB battle here. But to Ray's point, I don't know if 9 wins is doable, but that schedule, I mean, no Iowa, no Michigan, no Ohio State, no Oregon, no Penn State.
Yeah.
I mean, if
path
they
to 7, I think there's a path to 7 there, perhaps.
There's an opportunity to outperform the expectations.
Yeah.
There's a bet there.
Agreed.
Yeah, definitely. That schedule's beautiful. I don't know what Greg Schiano knows in the scheduling department of the Big Ten, but
he's got pictures
yeah,
of somebody.
man,
That's
get a Christmas card to that guy if you end up winning 9 games. So yeah, definitely an interesting team there. All right, moving on. Wisconsin currently sitting at plus 8,000. A lot of hype around them last year. Luke Fickell did not implement any kind of passing game, and now I believe Braylon Allen is gone. Tyler Van Dyke coming over from Miami. Which version of him are they going to get? Gosh, I defense good, offense not so much. Not a fan of the Badgers this year. What do you think?
It sounds like the Badgers, right? Except I think they're missing their vaunted running attack. I mean, I think Tyler's going to be fine. Superstar, no, but I think it's going to be fine. And Wisconsin traditionally play defense, run the ball, a quarterback that gets the job done, operates the offense, doesn't turn it over, right? Could Tyler do that? Probably. Do they have the running game for that? No. And I think that's the issue. And I think that's where they're lacking from where their traditional strength is. That being said, maybe somebody will surprise me here. I mean, I would never be surprised any year the Badgers are good because they are a team that certainly can be good. They can recruit. That place is a pit to play in. Right? So going to play at Camp Randall is not exactly what anybody wants to do. So they have, like Iowa in that respect, just a hard place to play. So yeah, I think they have that going for them, but they just don't have the running game, and I think that'd be a problem for them.
Yeah, that schedule looks a little tough too as we get more into the top teams here. USC, Penn State, Iowa, and Oregon all on that schedule. Although they do avoid Michigan and Ohio State. So if they can surprise maybe 2 of those 4 games against a little tougher opposition, hey, who knows? But yeah, I don't know if I'm as high on Tyler Van Dyke as you are. I mean, he's kind of like Jekyll and Hyde, man. He's like the Oklahoma State of quarterbacks. Like you never know which one you're getting. So, but he's got Tanner Mordecai also came over to maybe pressure him into doing a little bit better. Who knows? But neither one of them are coming off great 2023. So
I'm not high on Tyler. I'm just from what the expectations of him would be in Miami, right? Which versus what they would be in Wisconsin. It's a totally different style of football. It's a totally different approach. I think he could do well in Wisconsin because there's not as much expected of him. Or in Miami, it's like, well, it's a different game. So I think that's why I think he can fit the role. Where I think he probably went to the wrong place when he went down there. So.
All right, 9 teams down, 9 to go. Let's look at the Terps. Maryland Terrapins plus 7,500. Obviously, the biggest question for them, Tua's little brother, no longer there. Big time QB battle going on there. The one thing I found concerning about this, 2 things. One of the minor ones, a lot of secondary people have moved on. And the biggie, not one single offensive line starter is returning. So I am not looking for great things out of Maryland's offense. And their defense was suspect to say the least. So This number have to be a lot higher for me to even want to play these guys. What do you think?
I would say ditto, but that makes for a really short podcast, so maybe I'll talk about it a little more. But yeah, I mean, secondary is a concern. Not that the defense was amazing to begin with, so that is absolutely a problem. Obviously, that quarterback change, wherever it lands, is going to be a major change for them this year versus last, and so likely a pretty sizable step down, right? So that's going to be a challenge. Offensive line, I mean, we all know, I mean, offensive line is critical. To change over your entire offensive line at any time is a problem. I don't care who you are. And so for a team like that, I don't know what their recruiting pipeline looks like, at that, kind of at the line level and such, but, that likely they're not like stacked with talent on the bench that they can just flip the switch and keep moving. So that's likely to be a problem, right? So for all those reasons, I think could they be a decent team? Maybe, but there's a lot of things that have to go correctly for them. And to have that many things go right for you is difficult, right? And so I'm not sure I see that.
Yeah, especially with all the sorry, go ahead, Ray.
Trending in the wrong direction, I think, clearly.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, these teams in this conference, a lot of them actually do play defense, and you're throwing a new QB and 5 offensive linemen out there against some of these teams. Yeah, good luck with that. All right, now things start to get really kind of interesting here, because if you've listened to us at all during the first year, Tim loves him some Matt Rule. When I say Tim loves him some Matt Rule, I mean he can't stand Matt Rule. So let's look at Nebraska here. The big thing with Nebraska, I mean, we all know Matt Rule's third year. Every program is, 10 wins or more, big bowl game. He's going into his second year here, and perhaps the best thing he's done so far, he actually got a top QB to leave Georgia to come and potentially start for him, Dylan Raiola. Leaving Georgia to most likely be the starter here for the Cornhuskers. Defense, really, really good. Offense, really, really bad. Schedule's decent. What do you guys see for Nebraska this year?
I think they're trending in the right direction. I do. I mean, you could say what you want about Matt Rule. I don't think he's a good X's and O's kind of game day coach. I think he makes mistakes. I think he has mental lapses at times. I think there's things that aren't great with him on the field. However, the man can recruit, right? And he can get some talent, as you just mentioned. Getting that quarterback is a big deal. So I think it's positive. So I think he's going to have players there. And, players, can he coach them up? I don't know. But can they be competitive just based on pure talent? I think they can. So they're right in the middle of the pack for me here. They could go either direction, but I think there's potential for them, once again, a team that could step up and beat somebody, right, that you don't expect, right? This could be a spoiler at some point for somebody. And I think that's interesting, because that is a role that I think they would relish at this point, because it would kind of be a new day for them, right? A step in the right, showing a step in the right direction. I think that's important. So that's what I see for them.
Yeah, team, I think. And if the quarterback works out, they address their one major weakness, if my memory serves, from watching them play last year. Very sloppy.
Yeah, Jeff Sims was a turnover machine, whether he was throwing or running. Yep. What's the other guy's name? Harbarg or whatever he is. He's back, but I mean, my God, he wasn't that great either. I think if you want this program to move forward, just let Raiola go out there and play, man. I mean, let him get the reps. What do you got to lose, really, at this point? So hopefully that's what our favorite coach. Yeah.
Well, if you got a quarterback that can fire it around, I mean, if he is what we think he can be, they can be dangerous, right? Because he can step up and bite somebody, and I think that's what they can. I think that's what they can bring to the table, and that could be a spoiler in the Big Ten, which I like because of how it's packed together. A couple spoiler teams in here that can just step up and beat one of the big top 3, top 4. That could change the whole dynamic of this conference going forward, and I think that is going to be the intriguing thing that we see play out this year.
Yeah, and the schedule's kind of manageable. I mean, they do have Ohio State, Iowa, and USC on there, but none of the other big boys. Plus 6,000. Juicy enough for either of you to take a shot, or no?
This is not my play. I've got a different one. I don't hate the number. I don't think they're far enough along to take them at plus 6,000. I wouldn't take them at any number right now. Now maybe next year, right? You said year 3, right? Get to year 3. If we see development, then maybe I would be enticed by this type of bet right here. But right now, I don't think they're not quite there yet.
Yeah, could get some. Yeah, could get some good value on them next year because you assume all the big boys are still going to have some nice low odds. So, all right, moving on. National championship runner-up, the Washington Huskies. And boy, you want to talk about having to replace people. Okay, this is like Kent State all over again. So, number of offensive starters returning. Anybody want to take a guess? Go
I'm
ahead.
gonna go with 0.
You are correct, sir. They don't have
0?
anybody coming
0.
back on offense. You want to take a guess how many defensive starters they have coming back?
It's a very small number.
Correct again, my friend. It's 2. So
Yeah.
And oh, by the way, you have to play Michigan, Iowa, USC, Penn State, and Oregon. And your quarterback is going to be Will Rogers, which might be the only highlight of the offseason as he transferred from Mississippi State. Plus 5,000. This could be plus 50,000. It's just so difficult in a solid conference like this to just basically come in clean and expect to compete right away, especially with that schedule. There's no number that would get me to play the Huskies here. What do you guys think?
I could not agree more. And we didn't even talk about the fact that they just came into the Big Ten. And when a team is changing divisions, right, changing conferences, sorry, it's always a challenge, right? You've got to adapt to a whole new way of playing the game. Just everything's different in these conferences, and this is a major change in conference. So you're going from what was a pretty offensive, heavy forward conference to one that is strongly defensive. You've got weather that you have to. There's a lot of things you have to deal with in the Big Ten. That's not quite the same. What was the Pac-10? That's an issue. So just even if they had that same team and they were coming over, I'd say, okay, yeah, they're a good team, but we're not sure what's going to happen because that conference change and the schedule change and all that changes the dynamic. Now you add everything you said, right? I mean, 0 offensive starters coming back. I don't know how any team can do. I don't care if you're Ohio State, Georgia, right? With none coming back, that's tough. Right, that's a lot to do. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know what the future looks like for them, but right now they're going to take a significant step back this year. But that's fine. I mean, I think they peaked last year in a way, and I think they can give them some time, and maybe they can figure out, how to compete in the Big Ten. It's not happening this year. I wouldn't take any number on them.
And I mean, look at the team they had last year, and look what a Big Ten team did to them in the national championship game. I mean, Penix almost had to be carted off. I mean, dude could barely walk. So I mean, and like you said, they're not bringing that team in this year. So I think it's going to be a long 2024 for the Huskies here. All right. Speaking of teams that are struggling to score or do anything offensively, let's talk about Iowa, baby. Yes, the defensive powerhouse. They only allowed 14 points a game, but they only scored 15. And I don't know if you guys saw a tweet today. Somebody had posted that Caitlin Clark had scored more points in her 4 years in Iowa than the Iowa football team did. Apparently, that's 100% true, and I'm not surprised.
Yeah, no surprise there.
So the big thing here, Cade McNamara, Pete, you know him pretty well, being a former Michigan QB. That dude needs to be healthy, man. And offensive coordinator Tim Lester, welcome to the job. You can't possibly do any worse than the last guy. Schedule's nice. I have a slight lean towards this team this year. What do you guys think about the Hawkeyes?
Yeah, this is my long shot pick here at plus 3,500 right now on FanDuel. I'm sure I'd like to see it get a little longer than that, which it might. But I like that number. Listen, I like this team because they can play defense, and even when you have a really good team, especially at home, going into that pit with that defense, man, it's a night game. I remember Michigan when they were a couple of years ago in a night game. We had a good team, man. It was ugly. I mean, they were all over us. So they're a tough team to play in their stadium. They have a really, really good defense. No Cadwell, of course. If he's healthy, he's serviceable. He's a decent quarterback. He can do fine. We'll have to see how it's more than just a couple pieces on the offensive side. They need to change the system. They need to do something different to find a way to score some points, because you can be an absolute juggernaut on defense, which they are, and still just flounder here because you just can't score any points. They got to find a way to get that up near 20 points a game or something like that to be serviceable, just serviceable. And I think they might do that, which is why I think there's enough possibility and potential there for that to happen, where I do think it's a worthy play. I'm probably going to put a unit on them at plus 3,500.
Yeah. I had them as a lean as well, although I didn't fire. But I mean, they do have Ohio State on the schedule, but none of the other big boys. So,
Yeah.
I mean, even if they
Schedule's
lose,
very
actually,
favorable.
it is definitely. Yeah, but I'm glad that you hammered it because I was leaning that way. But because of another bet that I made earlier, I'm not doing anything here. But all right, now a team that I don't understand why these odds are only plus 2,300. They should be a lot higher here, in my opinion. But USC. Coming over from the Pac-12 here. God, their defense was the worst. They burned me once or twice last year when I thought they would actually turn it around. Lesson learned there. Their offense was insane, but a lot of that was Caleb Williams. Something tells me he might get drafted relatively high at the end of the month.
Could happen.
There is optimism, though. Miller Moss came in through 6 touchdowns in the Holiday Bowl, but a defense that was already questionable only has 4 defensive starters returning. I don't get all the USC love. Well, I don't know if it's love, but they're the 5th betting choice here in an 18-team conference. I don't see it. Am I missing something, or do you guys not see any success here in the first year of the Big Ten?
No, they're going to get run over. This is the wrong place to be. I think it's that simple.
Yeah, I think not having a defense in the Big Ten is a problem. I think obviously with the loss of Caleb Williams, I mean, you can't replace him. That's a bit. I mean, that aside, I mean, I think we're not talking about the NFL here, but I don't think he's going to be a great NFL quarterback. But in the college game, he's a superstar, right? And losing him is a problem when you have a defense that's just porous. And coming in here and playing against better quality opponents on a weekly basis is a problem. Yeah, I agree with you, Darren. Plus 2,300, you could double that or triple that, honestly, and I wouldn't touch that thing. I think that's a burning dumpster fire there, unfortunately, and that's the way it's going to be, I think.
Yeah, all right. So I'm glad it's not just me. Okay, all right. The Big Four, your 4 betting favorites here. Let's start with Penn State, currently sitting at plus 600 to win this conference. Pretty good defense. Drew Aller, nice stats, but don't think he threw the ball more than 40 yards, more than 5 times, I think, the entire season. A little dink and dunk going on here. Good RB duo in the back there with Singleton and Allen. They're bringing over Kansas's offensive coordinator, so that could be something good. Kansas was pretty good offensively. Schedule not too bad. What do you think? Is 600 too low here, or would you need it to be higher to even fire here?
All right, so I got to channel my inner Tim for a minute. I got to.
Yeah, this is where
proud right here.
Yeah,
right,
this is where you take over the show, and Ray and I go get snacks and just let you do your thing because these next 4 schools, I'm excited to hear what you have to say.
Let me just preface this: I don't hate Penn State like Tim hates Miami and some others.
So no T-shirts.
So no T-shirts. No. I don't hate them. I just think they're inept on game day. I think. Number one, okay, their defense plays well. They're a tough beat at home. That's good. They can run the ball usually. That's good. I think that James Franklin is going to fall on his face as usual because they'll do something stupid in a game and cost them a game that they shouldn't. So they'll hang around. They'll be tight. They'll be close. But it's James Franklin's the problem. He can recruit really well. He cannot coach a lick on Saturday, and that has always been their Achilles heel, at least since he's been there, has been the issue. They've had some good teams, including Ohio State, and others on the ropes, and just managed to just choke that thing down, right? And it's really unfortunate. And just a sidebar, I don't like Drew Aller at all. I mean, I think every time I've watched him, I've been grossly disappointed in his ability to effectively manage the game, move the ball, protect the ball, and just keep kind of consistent. Keep just consistent structure with the offense. He looks lost sometimes. The moment, even just average moments, look too big for him at times. Now he's a year older-ish. Okay, so maybe some of that's coming around, but I just have not seen any evidence of that. James Franklin's not getting any smarter this week than he was last week. So yeah, I mean, Penn State they'll be in the mix, but they're not going to win the conference because they will lose to somebody they probably shouldn't. That's what they're going to do.
Ray, what do you think? Because we're hitting Michigan next, and you and I aren't going to be able to say much for like 5 minutes. So
puzzling team, I guess, Penn State. I wanted to hear the deep dive. You just ask yourself what is wrong there. There's something wrong there. I don't know what it is, but they don't get it done.
I think it's James Franklin, like Pete said. I mean, like you said, he's the Mario Cristobal of the Big Ten. You can always count on him to lose a game, and he can't beat anybody ranked in the top 10. I mean, just he goes against a higher ranked team, and he just got no idea how to beat
I'm
these.
not touching that with a 10-foot pole.
Yeah, no way.
Actually,
Yeah.
So.
All right. Everyone take a breath.
All right. I'm going to take my big breath first.
Plus 460 to win the conference. The Michigan Wolverines, last year's national championship winner, and the only reason we finished plus units last year. So thank you to that squad. Yeah, I mean, I have notes, but why bother? Go ahead, man. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. So I digress. Right. I don't want to have this conversation, but we're going to have. Okay, so we won the national championship. Fantastic. It's been a long time coming. It was awesome. We had a great year. Yeah, I'm concerned about this coming year. I mean, we talked about just turnover in players. What do we have? One starter coming back on offense, I think. Yes. One. Right. We have obviously we have a quarterback battle going on between 5 quarterbacks potentially. So I don't know where the heck that's going to go. Right. Obviously, our coaching staff changed. Jim is gone. You know, Sharon Moore is running the program now. He showed that he had some potential, Mike, and so I think he can coach just fine. I'm not worried about him on game day. It's kind of the opposite of James Franklin. I think he will do a good job managing his players and the team on game day, and he won't do anything stupid. I don't think. Right. I worry longer term about his ability to recruit. Right. That concerns me. Now, we're not there yet. I could be wrong. Who knows? But the longer term, that concerns me. For this year, I mean, I hate to say it, but I'm looking at a significant step backwards. I mean, there's way too many things moving at the same time. And just off the field weird stuff that was going on with the DUI thing and all that. I just weird stuff going on. I just think it's time to fall back a bit. Unfortunately, I wouldn't touch them with your money at plus 460. And as much as that pains me to say, there's just no way. I just don't. There's too many moving parts. Yes, they have talent. Yes, they have depth. There's a lot of things there, but that's just too much changing at one time. And they'll be competitive once again. They will probably lose to Ohio State this year because they're number one. They're due, and I think Ohio State's going to be very, very, very good. So I think that's going to switch gears here a little bit. So they're not going to lose a ton of games, but they're going to lose enough games. They're not. They're just not going to win the conference. I can't see it. Right?
Ray, do you have anything?
I won't write them off.
Well, you can't write them off, right? I mean, they have talent.
A lot of talent. Yeah.
I won't write them off, but at the same time, like if I'm just about betting, I wouldn't. That number, you would have to make that number maybe like plus 2,000 or something. I might consider biting on it. Maybe.
What was it? Was it 460?
It's plus 460. Like there's no. I mean, there's just no. That's way too low of a number. It could happen, but I can't see it. So anyway, I'm done with my thing here.
All right, Debbie Downer, thanks for joining the show. Plus 2,000, I'd jump all over it at plus 2,000, but I would at plus 1,000, I'd give it a shot. Like you said, they're always going to have good players. It's just that kind of program. Yeah. The defense will keep them in games. If you can get anything out of any of these quarterbacks, I don't see how this team doesn't win 9 or 10 games. I mean, the Oregon game is going to be interesting. I'm going to watch that one. I would love to see how they do against Oregon. You had already touched on the Ohio State game. I do think this is the year Ohio State gets one, basically because they're Michigan 2.0. I mean, if you look at everything they've done, but we'll get into that a little bit later.
I mean, not a conference game, but the Texas game early in September is going to be telling. Yeah, just to see how good this team is and how good the replacements are, right? Because Texas is a good team. Yes. That is going to be very interesting. If they can compete and if they can win that game, then I might soften up on a bit and say, okay, maybe, right? But that'll be we'll know pretty soon in the season whether or not they're truly viable or not.
All right, 2 teams left to break down here. Let's start with the last Pac-12 castaway, the Oregon Ducks. I mean, the big news here, Bo Nix gone, Dylan Gabriel transferring over from Oklahoma to replace him. A lot of people high on the Ducks this year. They're second on the odds board at plus 250. Yeah, I mean, the schedule's kind of nice. Big thing with them from a lot of what I read about them, losing a lot of people in the secondary, including 3 starters. So Not sure how that's going to go over, but what are your guys' thoughts on the Ducks this year?
So, I mean, you guys have talked about it before I came here last year, and I just talked about it a little bit ago, right? Changing conferences is difficult, right? So you've got this team coming from the Pac-10 into the Big Ten, different style, things are different, right? That said, I think this is going to be the true test of how big of a deal it is to change a conference, because this is a good team. This is a team that can score. This is a team that can play some defense. This is a team theoretically that if you said, pick a team that's outside the Big Ten, who could fit in the Big Ten other than somebody like Georgia, of course. I would say, yeah, I think Oregon could, but that transition, the travel, some of the stuff that comes with that can be challenging. So I don't know, but if there is a team that could potentially do it, it could be them. I do not dislike Oregon. I don't like the number, but plus 250, I think you said it was. I mean, that's a little short for me.
Yeah, I agree.
But that being said, I mean, you give me plus 450, 500. Okay, maybe you're getting to somewhere I can think about it. I think it'll be really interesting. I'm gonna watch a lot of Oregon games this year. I'm just really curious to see how they compete with the big boys, sure, but even that second tier down of what are the Big Ten teams that give everybody problems. Even if you want to throw Iowa in there, fine. Even Wisconsin at home, things like that. I want to see how they play in those environments. But I think they do have potential. So this is a team that I think I'm certainly not writing them off. I think they have an absolute potential here. I don't like the number. So that's my deal.
Ray, any thoughts on the Ducks?
Yeah, they belong here. They I don't think they've missed a beat. Really, everybody has an Ohio State problem, I guess. But
yes.
No, the one good thing, Ohio State goes to Oregon. I want to say week 6, week 7, maybe somewhere around there.
That's gonna be interesting.
Be some good
really
stuff.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's gonna be Ray. We might have to drive down Rivers to watch that one. If that's
sounds like a plan.
That's gonna be a great game. I will be watching that.
Yeah, I agree. That's October 12th. They go to Oregon.
Yeah, I was gonna say that was like early.
And the week before they play Iowa, so it's a home game. So they're gonna have Iowa, who's gonna beat them up, right? That defense is gonna be tough, and then they're gonna have to go to Oregon. That is an intriguing little stretch for them right there. So we'll see quite a bit.
None of you guys talked about the quarterback for Oregon. So I really want to know what you think.
I mean, Dylan Gabriel, he certainly didn't suck at UCF or Oklahoma. I mean, he's about as close to Bo Nix as you can get without being Bo Nix. But again, like Pete said, you're playing in the Big 12 when Texas was your only real opposition. And UCF, it's not like they're playing top 10 defenses every week either. So, again, like Pete had mentioned about the transition to a big boy comp. I mean, I don't want to take anything from the Pac-12. The Pac-12 was really good last year. I mean, let's face it, much as college football fans bash the Pac-12, they had 6 ranked teams at one point.
It's just a different style, right? It's a different style of football. But exactly. Then again, Oregon was a bit of an exception because they played more of a Big Ten style, at least that direction. So
they did. They had less than 17
those points aren't going to come as easy.
Yeah, definitely. And Pete also mentioned a good point, which we haven't even talked about, the travel that some of these teams are going to have to get used to. And again, it's the same for some of these big teams. Ohio State's got to go to Oregon. They probably don't travel that far normally, but it's definitely interesting. But and again, Pete, I agree with you. Plus 250, absolutely not. Like you said, double that, and I'm on board. But plus 250, no thanks.
Yep.
All right, the last team, I have nothing to say because I had gone into, my first future bet was Ohio State to win this whole damn thing. I had bet it the day after Nick Saban retired. Got a nice plus 800. You can barely find plus 500 anywhere. Every move that they've done. And like I said, if you want to hear all those, go back and listen to another show when I made the bet. But I'm going to have you two guys kind of go off on Ohio State here. Plus 155 to win the conference. I wouldn't touch that. That's way too short. But yeah, I have a plus 800 to win the whole damn thing. What do you guys think?
Well, obviously I'm a Wolverine, so I do hate the Buckeyes. That being said, I can respect them as well when they are a really good team and they are this is going to be a really good team. That defense is going to be vicious. I mean, that is going to be hard for anybody to deal with. Their only issue at the moment, and I'll call it a loose issue, is the quarterback competition that's going on. Right. That to me, that we see how that plays itself out. As long as they make a decision where the guy is serviceable, whoever it is, they'll be fine. Right. I don't think they're going to have to go out and score a bazillion points because that defense is going to strangle people. So that's going to be an issue. It's going to be hard to play this team. You've scoring points on them. I mean, Michigan, Ohio State's had a good defense, right? Michigan, a couple of years ago, they finally kind of cracked the code with them, which is kind of old school, which is just keep punching them in the mouth over and over again. It took them 10 years to figure out that's the way you beat them. I don't know if that's how you still beat them, but I think you're going to have some teams try to do that. But yeah, up front, they're just a strong team on both sides of the line. Yeah, I mean, really, when we talked about, just not just the conference, but just overall looking at who we thought the top couple of teams are going into this year, Ohio State keeps coming up, right? And it's hard for me, and it pains me as a Wolverine to say it, but I can't deny that, right? They're a really good team. I think that they're going to win the Big Ten, and I think they're going to do it in a rather spectacular manner. That's what I see.
Ray, thoughts on the Buckeyes?
Well, put simply, if you want to win that particular bet, that's what you have to do.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't going to say nothing because Pete covered just about everything, but I'll just touch on the quarterback situation because that was my only concern as well. Devin Brown's pretty legit, and he came out and said, I'm not transferring. He's like, I'm going to compete for this job. But I'm not super anti Will Howard either. I mean, he's a good throwing quarterback. He's an excellent running quarterback. Like 6'4", 235 or something like that. I mean, he should stay relatively healthy running the ball. I mean, the dude did lead Kansas State to a Big 12 title in 2022. Yeah. So, I mean, it's not like he's got no big games under his belt. I mean, and with that running back duo, Judkins, the transfer from Ole Miss, and Trevion Henderson coming back, just turn around and hand it off to somebody. You don't have to be that guy that led Kansas State to the championship game in your conference a couple of years ago.
And I think that's exactly it, right? They don't need the second coming of Peyton Manning to lead this team. They don't need that, right? They just need a guy who can run the offense intelligently, hand the ball off, don't fumble, right? Just be efficient with that defense and with the backs and that offensive line. They're going to be hard to beat. I mean, simple as that. I mean, if I'm playing them as a Wolverine next year, what I'm looking for is turnovers, right? If you're going to try to beat them, you need them to make mistakes, because if they don't, it's a problem. And that's I think the story of what Ohio State's going to be. If they don't win the Big Ten, it's because they made their own mistakes. They did something wrong somewhere that they probably shouldn't have.
Yeah. All right, so that's our preview of the Big Ten. Let's wrap it up here with any bets we made or will be making once all the books come out with odds here. I'll go first because I didn't do anything. I did have a lean towards Iowa. I mean, I did kind of like the fact that offensively they could not get any worse. Their defense still looks legit. Love the schedule. That was a plus 3,500 right now at FanDuel. Like I said, maybe wait to see what DraftKings MGM comes out with. But I'm not betting this conference only because I have Ohio State winning the whole thing. So I'm backing off here. But I'm Pete, I'm with you, man. I believe in the Hawkeyes for some reason.
Yeah, everything you just said, right? As I mentioned before, I'm betting 1 unit on Iowa here. I think I love the defense. I love the fact that they're just tough to beat, especially at home. But they always keep you close. They're gritty. I like that, and that keeps them in games, right? And so they're teams like that win games that they're not supposed to, and I like that. Especially, they seem to thrive in night games for some reason. I don't know what it is, but whatever it is, right? They're really hard to beat in that environment, especially at night. And so, yeah, I mean, I think at that number, that's a very worthwhile long shot bet. As I said, in terms of who I think will win the conference, OSU, I don't have anything else other than that. I wouldn't bet it because the number is just way too short. Not worth the bet, but I think it's the probably who will win. So that's mine.
Well, we're big fans of hedging on this show. So remember, all you got to do is get there, and then you just turn around and bet on the opponent. In a perfect world, you make a profit. So, Ray, you firing on any of these teams?
I thought it was quite boring. The conference was quite boring, and Iowa is right where they're supposed to be. I wouldn't waste my money. You can't score points, not going to win.
And I should note,
that
in a rare instance, all three of us are actually in New York, and Pete and Ray are actually sitting next to each other for this. So, we'll end the recording before the fisticuffs start because I already see Hawkeye tensions getting ready to boil over.
Right.
Pete will have a T-shirt next week. Pete will have his "I Hate Ray" T-shirt on for the next show.
Yeah, Hawkeye, that'd be great.
Or "I'm with stupid" with an arrow pointing to whichever Ray happens to be sitting. But, man,
I will play with the Rutgers thing, and then you guys can have a good laugh at my. Ooh, did I say 9 wins?
Yeah, that's a big no. I mean, I agree with your assessment that they can be dangerous, they can play well, they can beat people. 9 wins in this conference for them. I think 7's a stretch. If Rutgers can get to 7, that'd be interesting.
Ray, so are you betting the Rutgers win total over? Is that what you're telling our listeners? Is that going to be an official play, your first official play on the show?
Wow, look at that.
My first official play on the show.
All right. I'm not sure what it is, though. So we'll have to look at what it is.
When he makes, there's other books that don't have a lot of this stuff up. So, that's the one thing. When we make these bets, we got to come back on and let the peeps know, where we bet it at and what number we got. So, very nice. So, all right. So I think that, one other thing I wanted to say, guys, when we do the weekly shows, we keep them around 25, 30 minutes or so, because we know you have 9 trillion other things you could be doing with your time other than listening to us. And obviously we appreciate it. These conference ones, thanks to all these realignments, they're running along 45 to 50 minutes, and we don't cover every single team in depth. But if you guys want us to give a breakdown on any team that you may be interested in, Tim's got the cfbdude@yahoo.com email set up. If you're a member of the Facebook group, just drop a post on the page there. And next time we have a show, we'll definitely get on there and do that. But, we try and lump some of these longer shots together just to save time because, unlike us, we know you guys have lives. So, all right. So just to recap, Pete is betting 1 unit on Iowa to win the Big Ten. Ray, you 1 unit, or are you just going like full blown?
Give him 1 unit. Go.
Just have you. Ray, our bankroll management show. I know Ray listens to our bankroll management show as well. Yes. Let's just say a unit on Rutgers over the win total, whatever that may be. And I believe in a couple weeks we got the SEC left, right?
We do.
Ray, I know you've been pestering us about Ole Miss for the last 6 weeks. You are going to have to join us for the next show. So
yes, you will. This is your discussion here. I got my stuff. I cleansed my spleen today.
I will prepare my case.
Yeah, so we will, break down all the SEC, and when we get to Ole Miss, the three of us will just shut our mouths, and you can tell everybody why they should be betting Ole Miss.
I'm going to enjoy that. Thank you.
All right, guys. Well, thank you for listening again. We'll be back in a couple weeks with an SEC preview. Thanks again, guys. Y'all have a good night.